Halios Universa has been a long time coming. First announced in 2019, I was sure this and the Fairwind were going to be the 1-2 punch of 2020. Even with the almost 2-year waiting time from announcement to production models hitting wrists, the hype never seemed to die down. The Universa takes aim at the Explorer-style watch segment, which has been growing in popularity since the famous Rolex Steel Sports model has become increasingly difficult to find. Coming in at 38mm wide and 48mm lug-to-lug, the dimensions may seem odd on paper. Such a long lug-to-lug on smaller diameter watches can look awkward. However, Halios has worked some magic with the lug design to ensure the Universa molds to your wrist and brings down the perceived lug-to-lug by a couple millimeters. When it comes to fixed bezel sports watches like the Universa, flying under the radar is key. The 11mm case height is slimmed down on the wrist with a 9mm wrist-to-crystal measurement. This shows how much the case design of the Universa thins out the watch to keep it comfortable all day. Playing into this comfort is the bracelet and clasp design. The Universa is taking advantage of the flat link style design that has become popular over the past year or so. The links articulate beautifully, and as it falls off the wrist, the watch drapes around the wrist immediately, keeping the lug-to-lug in check. If you've heard any of the hype about the Universa, you've surely heard about the clasp design offered on the bracelet. The clasp features a quick micro-adjust system, and while this technology isn't novel to the Universa, its execution is. The Halios logo on the outside of the clasp actuates the internal micro-adjust system, which allows you to loosen and tighten the bracelet by about 1 full link. I love having quick micro-adjust systems available to me, and while I like the execution of it here, I wish it were easier to adjust while on the wrist. Loosening it is easy enough, but tightening it can be difficult at times because there is nothing rigid to push against. I realize this is nitpicking a great design, but if the mechanism to use it is on the outside of the clasp, I'd like it to be easier to use while on the wrist. The case design is where the Universa really shines. I've been saying that Christopher Ward has been creating some of the best cases and watches for over a year, and the Universa's case design is the first one that has stood up to them. There are multiple lines, cut-ins, and finishing techniques used that give the Universa a dynamic look and allows it to sink into the wrist. It looks and feels good from all angles. The lume is what you would expect from a premium microbrand. It's excellent. The Superluminova C3 lume glows brightly and holds a charge for a significant amount of time. While not glowing, the lume has a slight yellow tone to it, which complements the gray dial and teal accented seconds hand. I normally prefer bright white lume, but Halios has worked it into the color scheme of the Universa perfectly. Rather than a brushed or polished bezel, Halios did both. The inner part of the bezel is polished and turns into the crystal ever so slightly. The outer part of the bezel is brushed, and while I like the different finishes used, I wish they were reversed. I've had a few people ask if the polished part is black. Because of the way it reflects light, it can look black a lot of the time. If it were reversed, the look would still be dynamic, and it would avoid that black bezel look. I was concerned about the legibility of the Universa after reading the spec sheet. A glossy gray dial with a double-dome sapphire crystal. AR coating or not, that is a recipe for a watch that is completely unreadable in bright daylight. I was happy to discover that the Universa is perfectly legible. A reflection may catch the wrong way sometimes, but 95% of the times I had no issues reading the time. The hands also stand out from the dial easily, as they are polished and faceted on the sides and brushed in the middle. So does the Universa live up to the hype? I'll leave that for you to decide after watching this review. I won't deny that it was hard waiting for this watch to come out after seeing it almost 2 years ago. There are a lot of things that can happen in that time frame. The excitement can subside, materials can be harder to source, and consumers may no longer see it as the hot new thing. If it were any other brand, I would say this waiting period may have hurt them, but Halios is a different animal. Viewing the launch of the Universa and the Fairwind shows how much this brand is adored by the watch community. I'm happy the Universa is here. Halios has given us another amazing watch, with tons packed into an affordable package. Thanks for watching the video review. For the full written review, head over to watchclicker.com. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe.